We've all heard people say over and over that if you do more of the right things, then you can do less things overall. It's the magic recipe for more time and more productivity. But how do you actually do that? Well, I'm glad you asked, because today I'm talking to Crista Grasso, and she is going to break this down for people that are either in a big corporation or even working as entrepreneurs. This is an information-packed interview. I hope you love it as much as I did. Let's learn more about how to achieve more by doing less. Welcome to the Leadership Coaching Group's podcast. I'm your host, Liz Howard, an entrepreneur, author, and executive leadership coach. This is where I introduce you to the top experts that discuss the burning topics that leaders at all levels need to know about. My goal is to help you become a leader that you are confident others will want to follow. So, subscribe to the show, listen in weekly, and watch your confidence as a leader grow. Hi, Crista. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Liz. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, you have such important information to share with the listeners right now. I think that the timeliness of this for my life, but also for the chaos that we have been dealing with in recent times is just so needed. So with me just teasing that out, would you mind introducing yourself in just 1 to 2 sentences so the listeners know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Crista Grasso. I'm creator of the Lean Out method. And so I really try to help people achieve more by doing less, really by getting clarity on the things that are actually going to make a difference and the things that aren't, so you can cut out and eliminate all of the waste in your business and the things that are non-value add.
What is it that you have found kind of keeps people from knowing what those things are, right? Because it sounds so logical, but why is it that we spin our wheels doing the things that aren't value added and we're missing the mark on the things that really just push business forward?
Absolutely. I think honestly, the main thing is that people don't create the space and make the time to do the strategy work and the work on their business to get clear on where they want to go. I think that's really what it comes down to is people just get so busy and they get a I will when kind of mindset because their to-do list is 10 miles long and they're just trying to get through the day or the week or the month and they think they're going to get to it at a later point in time. But unless they make a real effort to carve out the space to do that, they never actually get there.
Here's like a fun question to just put everyone on their toes. How do you know that you might be doing this? Because I talk to so many people who are busy, right? They're just always busy. They're on their phone, they're responding to emails and they're doing this and they're doing that. And they're very busy, but they may not, be aware that they're not hitting the nail on all the head. So how might you look for red flags within yourself to know that maybe you're a little bit guilty of what you're describing?
To me, it comes down to not just how effective are you in your business, but whether you're creating space for the other things in your life that are important to you as well. And everybody has different things, and there's different seasons in your business. When you're first starting out, obviously you tend to work a little bit more, but over time, you really want to get to whatever balance looks like for you. There is no kind of one definition of it. But I think if you find that you are always kind of start to finish in your day, putting all of your time in your business, when you are trying to do things outside your business, your mind is always on your business and you're not fully present. I think those are some red flags. And then beyond that, are the things in your business actually working? Are you getting the results that you want? And are you growing and scaling at the speed that you want to? And if you're not, those are in the business red flags that you probably have some opportunity to lean out.
Yeah. So let's talk about the words that you just used. Lean out. What do you mean?
So to me, lean out is focusing on what matters most right now and eliminating anything that isn't adding value to you and your customers. So I think you need to be so clear in your business on which things you're doing are actually value add to your clients, which things are value add to your business and actually driving profitability, and which things aren't and you might need to let go of or reimagine.
Hmm. It's like you're the business voice of Marie Kondo almost saying, if it doesn't bring you joy, but if it's not bringing you value, right? And that's almost, that's just as equally important. And so this is tough though. Like when we're talking about it on sort of this philosophical level, it's like, well, yeah, of course you get rid of the stuff that isn't giving you value and isn't moving your business forward. But it must be challenging for people to realize that they're stuck, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation. So how do you help people kind of see those speed bumps and those blockages that they might be happening and having?
Yeah, absolutely. It's super simple in theory. It's very hard in practice. And so one of the things that I always do, I start this way, whether I'm consulting with, a big, huge multi-billion dollar Fortune 50 client, or whether I'm working with a solopreneur, I always start with the same thing. And it's looking at the vision in the future. And where do you see not only the business, but yourself and your lifestyle, and also your customers and what they're going to need from you and how their needs evolve in the future. And I think you really ultimately need that longer term vision of where you're going. And then you need your shorter term goals for the next 90 days of what you need to focus on now. And from there, what I typically do with people is take a look at what they're actually investing their time and money and energy in right now. And what I usually find is a pretty big disconnect.
Hmm.
People may have this long-term vision. They may have even set goals, although a lot of people don't. But the things that they do on a day-to-day basis actually aren't in support of those. And I think that is a really big tell right there, is if your day-to-day things don't support where you want to actually take your business, that's where you really have to be honest with yourself and make a commitment to make some changes.
Mm. How do you approach that piece of advice if you work for a corporation that doesn't give you a lot of space to deviate from what they kind of are telling you to do, right? So that it's like your expectation is you do ABC, but you need to do XYZ to get to where you want to go. How would you advise people to proceed?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, I have spent a lot of time consulting in big companies like that. And whether I've also been an employee in companies like that. And I find that regardless, it's always a kind of what's in it for me type of approach. And so I understand I'm supposed to do it this way. I get why we've historically done it this way. However, here's what it's going to cost us to keep doing it this way. And here's the opportunity and the potential ROI if we do it this other way. If you could put it in language that they can see, and they either see the risk in continuing to do it the way that they're currently doing it, or the huge opportunity in doing it a different way, I found most people are willing to listen. Not always, but most of the time they are.
Mm. It's funny that what you're saying kind of reminds me of my business partner, Richard, who's on the show periodically. And I've known him since I was 10. And he always says, make yourself very difficult to argue with. So I feel like that's what you're saying, like make a clear business case. So instead of saying, but I want to do this, it'd be more fun. How come we're not? It's like, here's the risk, here's the reward, here's what we could be doing. And it's just very kind of difficult to argue with if it's just the facts, it's just a business vision, kind of goals oriented, then that really kind of elevates the conversation to a more strategic perspective.
Exactly. And that is one thing. If you think about most big companies, they are very strategic by nature. It's smaller businesses and entrepreneurs that put a little bit more of that they tie their personal identity more to their business. And they sometimes have a hard time making the strategic business oriented decisions because they tend to lead with kind of personal passion or heart sometimes.
Yes, we do. Yeah, no, I can raise my hand to that. Absolutely. I get it for sure. So
Mhm.
one of the things that you talk about that I would love to hear you say a little bit more about, and I think you could have touched on it, but you talk about how to grow a business that doesn't result in overwork and overwhelm. Krista, just talk to us about this.
So I touched on the vision and goals and making sure the things you do on a day-to-day basis support that. So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is that you have to get really realistic about how much you want to work. And for those of you with teams, you have to get really realistic about the expectations around how much your team is going to work.
Mm.
And I think that it's so important that you actually plan, but you also plan realistically. Most people dramatically underestimate the amount of time that it's going to take to get something done. And they also aren't really good at planning for all the things that are going to happen in a given week or month or year. And so I think one of the things that you need to do is you need to create space. If, for example, you want to work 40 hours a week and you want your team to work 40 hours a week, you should never plan for more than 30.
Mm.
And I think that that is so important. Trust me, you won't actually have an extra 10 hours in your week. And if you do, you will have plenty of things that you can pull forward. But that gives you that realistic view to be able to actually pivot when you need to, really do things with quality instead of just trying to hustle your way through things and sometimes either not getting them done or not getting them done well. And it also just gives you that sanity back into your day and your life, so you're not constantly stressed and feeling like you're on that hustle hamster wheel.
Hey, so sorry to interrupt the interview, but I just wanted to let you know about something really exciting that might truly help you. Do you get incredibly nervous before speaking in front of a group? Do you stay up night after night before you have to talk to your boss or a group of peers about some information? Maybe all of a sudden you have to deliver a lot of updates via teleconference to big groups, and you just don't feel like people are paying enough attention. I've got you. I am so excited to introduce my first mini course called Presenting Without Panic. We're going to go over how to really give effective presentations, how to optimize your message, and most importantly, how to drive action after each and every time you speak. I think you're going to love this. It's not long. It's bite size. So if you're down to the wire, you have a presentation coming up and you know it needs a little work, you can get through this course in time to meet your deadline. Here's what you need to know. Go to my website, theleadershipcoachinggroup.com. Join the email list. You will know when this thing drops. I'm proud to say that it will definitely be live by the springtime of 2021. And for those of you that are a part of my email list by that time, you're going to be offered the lowest price that I will ever offer the course for. Why? Because I want you to try it. It's brand new. I would love to have you be one of the first people to join me to learn how to present without panic. I think this is really going to help you. So go to theleadershipcoachinggroup.com, join our email list. I'm not going to spam you, but I will send you some really helpful leadership content, and you will know when Presenting Without Panic is up. Okay, let's get back to this interview. Let's talk about the hustle hamster wheel. And I love that, by the way, because there's sort of, I feel like maybe, I could be wrong, but I feel like maybe it's getting to be a little less pervasive in conversations. But I know when I was coming up in corporate, like that hustle hamster wheel was the thing for sure, not only in media, but it was the expectation of the corporations that I worked for. Why is that a bad course of action to try to jump on that hustle hamster wheel? And what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I am not a big fan of hustling. To me, what hustling says to me is I'm going to work as hard as possible. I'm going to try all of the things and I'm just going to keep going, but I'm not going to actually take the time to figure out how to work smarter. That's what it means to me. And I know everybody has different opinions on that, but to me, you really do want to work smarter and not harder. And that's part of leaning out, right? It's good if you have a great hard work ethic. It's most people I know are incredibly hard workers, but you get no reward for working 24/7. What you get is burnout,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so you have to find that space for your personal stuff balanced with your business stuff. And I think you just always have to be looking at what are the things that I should actually be investing my time and money and energy into, and what are the things that aren't as important right now. They're either things to say no to overall or things to say not right now to. And I just think that that's so important. I think that, when you first start a business, people tend to develop that hustle mindset and approach because you are trying all the things and serving all the people, trying to find what sticks and get your product market fit. But once you move beyond what I call the emerge stage and others call startup, I think you really do need to stop with that hustle mindset and get off the hustle hamster wheel. And you need to be more focused on what I call sustainable success, which is where you do have some of that balance and you are working smarter and not harder.
Mm. Oh my gosh, I love it. So let's talk about COVID because that hasn't been over talked yet. But a lot of people are working from home, and one of the things that I hear a lot is people saying that they just feel like guilty that they're at home. And so they feel like they have to be almost 24/7 and they feel like they have to be online all the time, and forget about COVID, please. I hope we can forget about COVID soon. But, there are also people that in certain career paths feel like that demand exists regardless of a pandemic, that they think they have to be connected to their phone or whatever. So how can you move past this like guilt or this feeling that like you have to do it, otherwise you feel like you're just like full of anxiety. I don't even know how else to say it, but how do you move beyond that?
hmm One of the things that I communicate to a lot of my clients and I think is really important is you have to set very clear boundaries. And sometimes a lot of that stress and that feeling of should I be on? Should I be checking my email right now? What if I don't respond right away? Is the expectation that I'm going to meet with somebody at 7 p.m.?
Mhm.
A lot of that is that you haven't actually set and communicated those boundaries. And so I think it's really important. A lot of the times, those other people don't want to be doing meetings at 7 p.m. either,
Mhm.
but everybody feels like they need to. And nobody came out to say, hey guys, I stopped taking meetings at 5 p.m. because I spend my evenings with my family.
Yeah.
If it's an emergency, let me know. Otherwise, this is when I'm done for the day. And I think just simply communicating that sometimes really helps quite a bit. And then people know what to expect. And if there's an emergency, they will absolutely get in touch with you.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think it's just communicating that. And right now, I'm consulting in a big, huge Fortune 10 company. And everybody has been talking about since they went to working from home, they're working so much more. The things that used to take them much less time is taking them much more time because they can't do the water cooler conversations.
Mm.
Everything has to be a meeting. And so the company just committed to a lot of changes for 2021, which I think is incredible. They've asked people to reduce their meetings by 30%, to cut the times of their meetings so that people, if it's a 30-minute meeting, it ends at 25. If it's a 60-minute meeting, it ends at 50. But they're doing a lot of things to recognize and try to give people that time back. They've asked them to block their lunch and to not take meetings or schedule meetings over the lunch hour. And so it just is boundaries.
Mm. Interesting. So I'd love to keep talking a little bit about some of those big corporations. A lot of my listeners work for companies, but some really are entrepreneurs as well, which requires, its own type of leadership. So, what are some scaling secrets that you found working with these big businesses that entrepreneurs might want to think about a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, if you think about any large company, everything they do, everything they choose to invest in, all the different projects that they commit to, and even the tools and products and apps and whatever it is that they do that they keep going is all based on strategic alignment. They know exactly what their business drivers are for the year. They have their strategies, and every decision they make is about strategic alignment. They don't have a to-do list 20 miles long that they do more haphazardly. They have a task list 20 miles long, but it ties back to very strategic initiatives. And so I think that's one thing, right? Is just, again, making sure everything that you're doing is directionally aligned with where you want to go. The other thing that I found is they invest in innovation.
Hmm.
And so there was a company that I was with for a while. It was a 30,000 employee company. And they had a lot of their workforce working in more of a lean and agile way. And they actually, every 90 days, they invested in people taking 2 weeks to dedicate to planning and innovation. And if you think about a company that size with that many people and taking 2 weeks out of every quarter, so 2 weeks out of every 12 to 13, to actually spend on planning and innovation, you know there must be a really significant return on that investment for them to have people not working and doing project work and instead just innovating and planning.
Hmm.
And I think that's something all businesses can learn from is the importance of making sure that you are doing your planning and you're doing your planning more just in time, as well as carving out space for innovation.
I might be referencing the number wrong because I'm not a math person, but I think that's like Google had I think it was 20% time, right? Where they said, just be creative, go think of stuff. And that's where they say Gmail and other things came from, was just allowing people to play and to innovate and to think and to create, and sometimes it was doing things like playing ping pong or just having the water cooler conversations like you mentioned before, to let their minds expand beyond the space of their cubicle. So yeah, I think I find that I know personally, like taking a walk or just getting away from my desk can actually really help with creativity. So yeah, I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah. definitely.
When we're kind of talking about running a business, one of the things you talk about is running it lean. Can you talk a little bit about what that means and why it really matters for growth?
Yeah, absolutely. And so a lean business is a business, if I could break it down into like one word, it's a very intentional business. All of your offers are very intentional. You know exactly who they're targeted for. You know who you serve. Everything is at the right pricing, right? You've got things really dialed in. It's a less is more approach. So you've got a few things that you do incredibly well instead of a whole lot of things for a whole lot of people that you only do sort of well. um, and so, I mean, when you think about a business that's truly lean, your investments from a finance perspective are in the tools, the systems, the people, the processes, the things that are ultimately going to, again, provide that value for your clients and that value for the business in terms of profitability and growth. The same is true of those offers that I mentioned. And your business, you've got everything systematized. You've got playbooks, you've got things in place where things are very repeatable. So your clients have a really consistent customer experience, and it's easy to onboard new people into your culture and into your company and still provide that same consistent customer experience.
Hmm. So, Krista, if you had just one piece of advice to offer to someone who was in a new leadership role, what would that be?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that in a leadership role in particular, know your style. Know your style and kind of optimize your style. And so I think new in leadership roles, a lot of times people try to model how they lead based on off of other people. And sometimes it's not a good alignment, and it's hard to get the respect of the people who are either reporting to you or who are looking up to you if you don't feel authentic. So even if you have a lot to learn, I think that if you're new in a leadership role, you just have to kind of find and continue to, optimize your own unique leadership style.
Hmm. I love that. So, if people want to learn more about you and your work, where can they go?
Yeah, sure. You can find me at leanoutmethod.com.
Awesome. Nice and easy. I appreciate that. Krista, thank you for sharing your wisdom and for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. All right, guys, that is all for this week. Until next time, bye bye.
Hey guys, if you're getting anything out of this show, please head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. I read every single one, and honestly, your feedback is single-handedly what keeps this show going. So go to iTunes and let us know you're listening. Thank you so much for being a part of our community.